Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix San Antonio. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Luis Scott Vargas, and it's time for the semifinals. Eldrazi playing against William Huey Jensen on table B. That's the middle table. You'll look at the bottom of your screen to figure out who the matchups are and where the players are seated. You can also keep your eye on the other matches for match updates as they come in. Those are going to be updated live. Owen Turtenwald playing against Gerard Fabiano. Blue-red Madcap Moon and Grixis control for Owen. On the other side of the table, it's Reed Duke and Ben Lundquist, Death Shadow versus Death Shadow down there. But here on the main match, Luis, we've got Eldrazi Tron versus Bant Nightfall. Can you look, normally I ask you about how the matchup is, but how are the matchups here?
Well, I like Owen Turtenwald's side of the Grixis control versus Madcap Moon deck. So the Madcap Moon deck is looking to cast a Madcap Experiment. There's 2 copies of that, which goes and finds Platinum Empyrean. And because of the way the spell resolves with Platinum Empyrean in play, you don't actually take damage from Madcap Experiment. So it's just 3 in a red for an 8/8 that says your life total can't change, which pretty good deal.
Yeah.
But Owen has Terminates and Cryptic Commands, and he is Ancestral Vision, which a lot of cards which match up very well against these cards. And the fact that Blood Moon is just... It's okay against Grixis, but Owen knows about Blood Moon. You know, the players have deck lists, and he can just fetch his lands to kind of play around that.
Yeah, so also keeping in mind that red is one of the colors that Grixis plays as well, so it's not like it's completely crippling it. Now, on the other side, we've got Ben Lundquist and Reed Duke. I mean, we have it listed as Death Shadow and Jund Death Shadow. I don't know. I'm assuming they're both Jund colored.
Reed's actually basically black-green Death Shadow.
Okay, I see.
He has just a couple white sideboard cards, so it looks
we know
very
has
similar
the
for the deck.
Yeah.
Whereas Ben Lundquist does have some Tarfires and Temur Battle Rages, but this is a mirror. There's not a huge difference between the 2 decks, and you end up being basically a wash in terms of matchup. I don't know which player has more experience with the deck, but Reed has played black-green decks the majority of his career, so I imagine he has a little bit more experience there. And then the match we're about to see, William Jensen on Eldrazi Tron against Eldrazi on Bant Nightfall. I actually like the Eldrazi side of the matchup with Dismembers and Walking Ballistas against the Bant deck. And, you know, William Jensen has lost 4 games in this tournament over the course of 14 rounds. So he is doing quite well for himself.
He's insane. All right, Breeding Pool kicks things off for Eldrazi. And 1 Tron piece down for Huey with no 1-drop yet.
And Huey has drawn 2 copies of Chalice of the Void, which is not really what you want on the draw, especially against a deck like Bant Nightfall, which doesn't have that many cards you can get at 1. It has the 3 Path to Exile, and then, of course, 4 Noble, 4 Birds, but Ely didn't lead with 1, and by the time you play Chalice, it's just not that effective against those.
Voice of Resurgence is the play for Ely. Huey's going to go ahead and run out the Chalice of the Void anyway. He didn't have anything else to do for the turn. He doesn't play 1-drops, at least too many of them.
I think this Bant deck has been one of the decks I think that has done the best in the tournament from what we've seen.
Yeah, that's true. Severa's playing it too, right?
Matt Severa's playing it to a top 4 finish. Pat Cox went 12-2. That was his record with the deck. And Ely Castillo's also in the top 4. So Bant seems like it has been a good choice.
Here's a Thought-Knot Seer, though. Hello, Eldrazi Temple.
Well, this is a forced play. Thought-Knot Seer has to take Retreat to Coralhelm, or the Knight of the Reliquary that's in play just goes off. And again, the way that combo works is you play Retreat to Coralhelm, you use the Knight, you get a land, it triggers Retreat, untapping the Knight, and you can just keep doing that over and over again using the first landfall ability. And then every time you get like a Windswept Heath or a Misty Rainforest, you get essentially 2 triggers on landfall, which means that you can tap all your opponent's creatures also, and then the Knight gets big enough to attack for lethal.
Still, Elixir has a nice little board here. He's facing down a 4/4 Thought-Knot Seer, but he's got a Path to Exile in his hand.
Which Huey has managed to blank, luckily, with the Chalice, but the Collected Company is also something that is not going to be good for William Jensen.
Does he have no land?
He's got the Knight to produce the 4th mana, but he doesn't actually have a land drop.
Huh. So he's going to just wait till end step to do this. Let's see what happens on Huey's side, because he's still stuck on just the 1 Tron piece, but he has an Eldrazi Temple, so we could see something like Reality Smasher here.
And looks like another Tron piece was the draw for the turn, but we'll see where what Huey decides to end up doing here. Dismember, a key card in this matchup. How many Reflector Mages does Ely play? He's got, it looks like 2 in the sideboard.
Okay.
Or 3 in the sideboard, rather. And those are key here. Reflector Mage is very effective against the Eldrazi.
Well, he finds a Urza's Mine here to play, so... Ooh, and another Thought-Knot Seer as well for Huey Jensen.
And Ely drew, I believe, a Spell Queller, so he could, instead of casting Collected Company, just cast Spell Queller. He might want to get a little greedy and try to company into a Spell Queller, but just casting one is a safer play. You do end up countering the Thought-Knot Seer.
I wonder what Huey's going to make of this pause from Ely Cassis.
He has to think, like, well, he's got company, but if he just had company, he would cast it. If he had 2 companies, he would just let Thought-Knot resolve. I think Huey would have gotten 2 Spell Queller eventually.
Spell Queller is certainly going to get to Thought-Knot Seer.
One of the risks of that play for Ely is that if Huey had a Dismember and then killed the Spell Queller, the Thought-Knot would come into play and then eat the Collected Company, at least temporarily. And, or at least until Eli gets his card back, rather. Card, in this case, meaning random card drawn. It's not a Tide Hollow Sculler. But Ely decides that the payoff of landing a Spell Queller is high enough and companying into a Spell Queller is low enough percentage.
Yeah, that 4/4 on the board, of course, matters as well. So he's going to go get a Flooded Strand.
Yeah, the Knight of the Reliquary up to a 4/4, potentially a 5/5 if the Flooded Strand gets sacrificed. Could be a 7/7 if Ghost Quarter targets one of Ely's own lands, which is a play that you can make.
Spell Queller unlikely to block. It's going to go ahead and chip in there for a couple of damage. Another hidden nice thing about the Eldrazi Tron deck is that, they're playing a much different mana base than most decks in Modern play. They don't take damage off of it.
Yeah, all their lands come into play untapped, and none of them deal damage.
Matter Reshaper for Jensen. Not a super impactful play, but he'll take it. Go.
And it looks like
no land.
He's not interested in playing this Reality Smasher.
Is the Knight just big enough to eat it up anyway?
He wouldn't be able to attack with it, no. The Knight would be large enough, certainly. But it's possible that he would want to just spend his mana. He's keeping mana up for, looks like maybe just Ghost Quarter. He doesn't have any instants in his hand. He actually drew an Expedition map which got blanked by his own Chalice of the Void.
That's pretty awkward. I think that's the only ones he plays, right?
Yeah, he's just got Expedition maps on 1 because Dismember doesn't really cost 1, even though he ends up paying 1 mana for it.
Right.
Wow, Gideon Allies into the card in Ely's hand. This deck really does look like
it just looks like a standard deck, yeah. So you could see what Ely did there. He sacrificed his Flooded Strand, got a Plains, then sacrificed that after tapping it for the Knight of the Reliquary. Then got another fetch land, sacked that, and then got a Plains in the end anyway. And now he's casting his Collected Company.
I think that there's going to be no combo needed. I think Huey is going to die to just giant Knights of the Reliquary this game because Ely found another one, and they're just going to be both like 8/8s or 7/7s or eventually like 9/9s, and that's just bigger than any Eldrazi.
Yeah, Huey missing, I think he missed his land drop last turn as well. And he's still a couple away from being able to cast one of the more powerful spells. You said he has one.
All is Dust?
All is Dust in his main?
Yeah, he has 1 in the main, and he has 5 mana available right now. Of course, not any. The third Tron piece would give him the mana he needs to cast it.
Yeah, and I don't believe it's in his hand yet either.
No.
That is the type of card that you start thinking about when you see situations like this, where Ely Cassis has really started to pull away on board with now double Knight of the Reliquary. He's got a Courser of Crufix up there just off camera, and then, of course, right in the middle of the Spell Queller and the Voice of Resurgence are still there, too. So another Knight of the Reliquary on top of his library as well. So, yeah, he is really going to have a lot of power and toughness on the board next turn. And he's not shy for it this turn either.
Given enough mana, Batterskull does a pretty good job of keeping Knights of the Reliquary at bay, but Huey just needs that third drawn piece to start getting that going, and it might be too late at this point.
In Matter Shaper, we trust.
Oh, it's going to be jumping in front of a Knight, I'm sure of that.
Yeah. So he's going to chump with that, but the Matter Shaper is going to trigger. And he's taking 8 or 9. Let's see for sure. Okay, it's a Mind Stone, so it was a Mana Source.
He could crack that Mind Stone. He could actually draw now all his Dust plus Tron piece. That would be pretty cute. Ely might actually be ahead enough that he just doesn't even play another Knight and playing around all his Dust. He knows about the card. He's got another Knight on top of his library here.
Jeez. Knight flooded, huh? Not the worst place to be. He's got Huey down to 7. And you know, once you see your opponent chump block with a Thought-Knot Seer, you're doing pretty good. And that's next turn if Huey can't do something about it here.
Oh, yeah.
He's deciding if he wants to crack the Mind Stone or just keep the Mana Source in play.
I like cracking Mind Stone, I think.
Is it Dismember? Is that too late?
Yeah, I don't think that really gets Huey out of this situation.
I don't think so either.
Even if he can finish off a Knight of the Reliquary that got blocked by Matter Reshaper, it still leaves him in the hole against 2 Knights of the Reliquary, a Voice of Resurgence token, and of course Spell Queller would be nearly lethal with Huey at 3 from the Dismember.
Right. The Elemental's a 6/6 on its own as well. You can see why Ely wasn't too sad about seeing his Voice of Resurgence hit the graveyard. He actually just improved it as a card.
Yeah,
significantly.
It's been some time since Voice has been a commonly played card, but yeah, very powerful card. And given that Huey's not really playing very many spells during Ely's turn, yeah, cashing it in for a token is pretty good.
Huey's still tanking on if he should use this Dismember and then play Batterskull, or if he can even afford to use the Dismember at all. Okay, he's going to use the Dismember. That gets him back a Thought-Knot Seer. That goes on the stack. That triggers. And we see Path to Exile, and what was that last card?
Gideon, Ally of Zendikar.
Gideon, huh?
Buried Ruin, not a Tron land.
Yeah, he really needed a tower there, didn't he? Now, he does have 2 4/4 Thought-Knot Seers and can cast a Batterskull here, though.
So you can block the 3 Knights, go up to 7 off the lifelink off the Batterskull, and currently take 6 off of the Voice of Resurgence token plus the Courser of Crufix. But if Ely plays the creature, the Knight of the Reliquary pre-combat, that will be enough.
Not the best draw for Huey. We saw that he had that extra Chalice of the Void. And after having played a Chalice of the Void for 1, he drew his own Expedition map.
No, the
But it is
Eldrazi.
blanking 2 Path to Exiles. All right, he did play the creature pre-combat, by the way, Luis. Is that going to do it here? He goes up to 7 from the Batterskull, blocks 3 of the Knights, and dies. Block, block, block. I think it's game.
Yeah, that puts him to 0.
That's not enough life to live. And that's going to do it. Game 1 goes to Ely Cassis. And this is the first game that has finished thus far, so we've still got a lot of Magic to bring you here in our first semifinal match. That was impressive. I have to agree with you, Luis. The Bant Nightfall deck has proven to be a good option here. It looks pretty good. All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, though, we'll have more Magic here from San Antonio. We'll be back in just a minute. Hello there, welcome back to coverage here at Grand Prix San Antonio. Taking a look at the in-between here, it looks like Ben Lundqvist won his game, but it was Owen Turtenwald who beat Gerard Fabiano. You said you thought that Owen had an edge in the matchup.
I do.
I mean,
this is not a hugely lopsided matchup, but I think that Owen having Tassiger and Terminate as cheaper options against Gerard's like Madcap, Experiment, and cards like Blood Moon. There we get a little focus there. Give Owen a slight edge. So as you noted, actually all three matches are sideboarding and or shuffling at this moment. So we've picked this match to go to. And taking a look more at sideboarding, Gerard gets to board in not a whole lot, honestly. Bedlam Reveler, PN Kira Nalar, Dispel. Dispel is good. And maybe Thing of the Ice. That doesn't seem great, but it seems potentially better than some of the cards in game one. Whereas Owen, on the other hand, gets to board in some Dispels, Vendilion Click, Counter Squall. So slightly more, not a ton more. But I would expect both players to have a fairly close configuration post-board as they do in game one. So we've got a classic blue control deck, Mirror, with no cryptic command, 3 cryptic commands on Gerard's side, 4 on Owen. So 7 cryptic commands between the two players, which is a good place to be in Modern. You see Owen enthusiastically riffle shuffling, as most players tend to do.
oh, he loves it.
Oh, and also using his allotted 1 pile shuffle here. Coming into this event, or rather, post the Swiss of this event, the Peach Garden Oath, Owen Turtenwald, William Jensen, and Reed Duke have played 8 team Grand Prix and top 8 at 5 of them. So that is why they are number 1 in the official power rankings. And their opponents are no slouches either, though. Gerard Fabiano, Ben Lundqvist, and Eli Cassis, a lot of experience between them. Gerard has actually played in close to 50 Pro Tours.
Oh, yeah, he's a vet.
He's a veteran. Ben Lundqvist, multiple Grand Prix top 8s, member of the national team, as I noted. And Eli Cassis recently top 8'd Legacy Grand Prix last year, I believe. I remember that because he had a sweet Grixis Pyromancer deck.
Ooh,
and
I like that.
I ended up playing that on Magic Online. You're going to see a lot of basic islands here. And one of the interesting things, too, is that Owen has to kind of respect Blood Moon, even though Gerard may have sided it out. And when Gerard does things like fetch for basic island, Owen has to wonder if Blood Moon is coming.
His deck is called Blue-Red Madcap Moon on our screen. Very well, maybe. All right, there's Ancestral Vision going on the stack for Owen Turtenwald.
And that is a much better turn 1 play than Serum Visions. But, Gerard still is going to get to see a good amount of cards. The first fight of this game is likely going to be over that Ancestral Vision. Also, what are your thoughts on the fact that it's Ancestral Vision and Serum Visions?
It took me a while to remember the difference. But I like the sound of Ancestral Vision a lot better.
The Ancestral Visions?
Yeah, Visions makes me think that like maybe I have a fever and I'm seeing things, but a vision makes me think of like I have a
fever vision of some kind.
Yeah, exactly.
Gerard deciding where to put his scries here. This is a control matchup. Both players they're going to set up for the game to conclude on turn 10 more than on turn 4, which is atypical of how Modern generally goes. So
right.
I think it's interesting to see this go, though. Jord is being a bit deliberate here. Wow, Owen has another Ancestral Vision. This is setting him up quite nicely.
Yeah, that turn 10 starting to look pretty good here from Owen's perspective, isn't it?
And Owen still has Lightning Bolt in his deck, likely to deal with Vendilion Click.
All right, well, looks like we've got an Ancestral Vision fight here.
Would you call them Ancestral Visions?
We do get to call Ancestral Visions, finally, yeah. We are correct.
Yeah, I like the fact that there are 3 Ancestral Vision in play. Visions. It just means that we're gonna set up for a bit of a counter war, and whoever resolves the first one, a little more likely to resolve or win the further battles. And it's gonna come down to Owen. And even if Jord can stop the first one, Owen has a second one kind of lined up and ready to go. What is kind of interesting is I don't know if Owen had both in his opening hand. There is some merit for not suspending one on turn 1 and just suspending 2 on turn 2. So they both go off the same turn, which means Jord has to have double the counters on the same turn.
Oh, interesting.
So
but it also makes it more likely that you'll end up discarding, right?
That is also true. And that is a very relevant detail because...
Look at his hand, and
Yeah.
these cards are just going to pile up. Although I suppose Lightning Bolts... I'm assuming he doesn't have targets for Lightning Bolt.
Just Vendilion Click and Snapcaster.
Okay.
Which is reasonable.
These matchups are super interesting how that works out.
Well...
Yeah, and you can definitely sit back in your chair here, kiddos, because this one tends to go on for quite a while.
This actually doesn't work out too poorly for Owen. He now has a target for one of his removal spells, and his hand is pretty bad anyway, so he doesn't care a ton if he gets clicked. I mean, losing Tasigur is unfortunate, but Owen does get to do something like Kolagon's Command, kill your Vendilion Click, make you discard a card here, which is, I think, what he's going to lead with.
And is this like a heavily counterspelled matchup? Like, like, for example, Owen could have played Tasigur last turn. Tapped out.
Owen didn't want to play into Cryptic Command.
He just didn't want to get Cryptic.
And he also, he would have had to tap out too. He'd really rather play Tasigur a few turns later when it costs 1 mana.
Mm-hmm.
See if Jord has a Dispel here. Owen lacking blue cards. His first Ancestral, if Jord has a counter, that's just going to counter it. But, Ancestral Vision is a sorcery, so Dispel doesn't counter it.
How awkward.
It's very weird. Spell Snare, of course, misses as well.
Right.
So, and Is It Charm is not going to do it. So, and plus Mana Leak, all your mana's untapped. So, pretty good odds that Owen resolves, even if Jord does have blue cards in his hand. Unsurprisingly, Tasigur is going to be the selection. That's just the most relevant card in Owen's hand.
So Owen has 2 bolts, a card, and then whatever he drew.
Yeah, Steam Vents, 2 bolts, and then some unknown card, which Owen hopes is like Cryptic Command. Oh, Jord's sacrificing both of his lands right now.
What's going on here?
Jord may have Blood Moon.
He just got more basics, and he's on all basics, including all islands and 1 mountain. He knows if he plays a Blood Moon, it's going to resolve, and he does. So is Owen going to respond by getting a basic island here with that Polluted Delta?
He may be priced into getting a Swamp.
Ah, that's his last chance to see black mana, of course.
And Owen has 1 Swamp. Well, Mountain doesn't matter, and 2 islands. Owen actually is not casting Cryptic Command again this game.
Wow. Which
So-
is actually one of his best ways to get rid of a Blood Moon as well, is it not?
Right, so
So now what?
Blood Moon is a pretty potent card here.
Yeah, his Creeping Tar Pit's no longer relevant.
Oh, so there's one of those blank
Ugh.
Cryptic Commands.
Players in the Pro Tour qualifier pairings for round 6 are going up.
So Tasigur,
Tasigur's still good. Lightning Bolt, single and double blue cards. So I guess Owen doesn't actually have any double blue cards.
Snapcaster Mage is still a card.
It is. Terminate, Counter Squall.
Okay. So he still has some action here. You see he has a Dispel in his hand. Here's Thought Scour. Now who does he target? Himself? Usually. But these matchups get kind of crazy.
Ooh, that's bad news for Owen.
Oh no, his other island's gone?
He milled his second island, which he really needed to hit in order to to play multiple cards in the same turn. Though, you know, Gerard doesn't have anything. If Owen has a counter squall for this Ancestral Vision and Gerard doesn't have any sort of response, Gerard may just be out of action.
Okay.
Owen with a
Few
million cards in his hand.
Yeah, he's going to play tapped Mountain. And then he says, I'd like to go to my cleanup step. Do you agree? And Gerard says, absolutely, meaning that they're now past his end step. Nobody can do anything. And all we're doing is getting Owen down from 10 cards in hand to 7, it seems.
See, this is why I don't like Blood Moon. Look, the whole game is just about Blood Moon now, and all it's doing is making it so Owen can't cast any spells. So it just narrows the focus of this game very, very clearly to those 2 lands Owen has that are basics, and I'm just not a huge fan of that.
Yeah, that's just too much, isn't it? And there's a counter squall, and we're thinking that Gerard might be just completely out of gas, and he is.
Yeah.
Draws his card for the turn.
I just can't imagine Gerard having a counterspell there that isn't like a mana leak or, you know, that he would not play that.
Uh-oh. There's Jace.
Choosing to minus it in the face of 2 lightning bolts.
He knows they're there, right?
He does.
So does Owen have to respond now? Yeah, he does. Wow. So Gerard is just going to cash in his Jace for a card or 2 here.
Just Snapcaster Mage. I mean, that is likely going to be the selection. And
it's a fine card, but goodness sakes, that was Planeswalker.
Yeah. You know, Owen has a shot of just finishing the game with Tassiger. Like, if Gerard does not have anything else, Tassiger could go the distance.
Absolutely. Tassiger and lightning bolts. What else do you need?
Basic Swamp and Basic Island help.
Yeah.
Tassiger devouring Ancestral Vision as a first choice. Somewhat irrelevant here, given that Owen's never going to have access to even a second blue mana, so he's not going to be able to activate Tassiger.
Right, he's not activating Tassiger. He does need to make sure he leaves the cards that he can actually flash back with Snapcaster Mage, like that beautiful lightning bolt sitting on top there. All right, well, here's Pia and Kieran Nalaar for Fabiano.
It
doesn't tussle with Tassiger perfectly, do they?
Gerard Fabiano tokens, I like it. No, Pia and Kieran Nalaar will stop Owen from just killing Gerard, but it's just a couple chump blockers.
Yeah, especially now. It's literally just 2 of them. Lightning Bolt takes them down. There's a Dispel.
Solid draw.
Yeah, those aren't bad at all for him. I mean, he only has the 1 blue source to cast them, so there won't be any counter fights, but he can stop something. I think he's got a couple of those in his hand. And this is Tassiger representing a nice little clock here on Gerard Fabiano. Gerard got himself to the spot with the Blood Moon that he wanted to, but it might not work out for him.
So where this has ended up is Owen has the advantage right now in that he's got a Tassiger, a Dispel, and a Spell Snare in hand actually ready to snipe that Snapcaster Mage. The problem is Owen's severely restricted as to what spells he can cast the rest of the game, whereas Gerard can cast all his spells like normal.
Spell Snare. He's going to hit the Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah. Remand gets much, much more effective with a Blood Moon in play.
Okay, that was the Serum Visions down there somewhere. Oh, and taking a look at the bottom of the screen, by the way, we've got 2 1-1s now while we've been watching this thrilling matchup here. Reed Duke and Ben Lundquist are each at a game apiece. Same with William Huey Jensen and Ili Cassis. So may have a real nail biter here. Again, Owen took down the first game, but there's a Blood Moon in play, and Owen has the 2 basics that are left in his library on the battlefield here. And he's trying to make that work.
It's basically Tassiger against the world right now.
Yeah, it is.
Owen just can't really cast any other spells.
He's actually going to cast the Serum Visions here, though that does take him off of blue mana. And leaves that Dispel stuck in his hand, at least for this turn. And Gerard's on chump block duty, it looks like. He needs to find a more permanent solution to Tassiger.
Cryptic Command will bounce Tassiger for a turn, but Owen can just recast Tassiger fairly easily. Madcap experiment for Platinum Empyrean would stop Tassiger, except Owen just scryed a Terminate to the top of his library, and
That's right.
he's going to be able to cast that one. Gerard deep in thought here about whether he wants to start chump blocking with, well, himself, his spirit token, or his Thopter tokens from P and Kiran LR, or whether he's content just attacking and falling to 6. Gerard also doesn't want to die to a flurry of lightning bolts from Owen, and Owen does have Snapcaster Mages and lightning bolts, so he very well could assemble multiple copies of Bolt over the rest of the game.
That is certainly one of the outcomes that you see in these scenarios. Because Owen's forced to get creative here. He just doesn't have access to the normal range of spells that he has. And even the ones that he does, it's kind of crimped, you know? He gets to play 1 blue and 1 black spell per turn. He's getting aggressive, though. Look at this. Terminate your Thopter so I can get in for 4 damage right now. Spell Snare. Gerard says, if you're that excited to kill this Thopter, I'm going to stop you from doing it. But Owen is going to fight. He's using up that black and that blue mana right away this turn. He's going to fire off Dispel.
And Owen is deciding that he just has to go for it, and that worked out well for Gerard.
So Tassiger's going to go back to hand, delaying things significantly here from Turtenwald's perspective. Also, Owen Turtenwald used a counterspell plus a removal spell just to kill a lowly 1/1 flyer. And
I can explain the reason Owen did that. He feels like he's so far behind that he just can't really play around Gerard having multiple action spells. And the fact that Gerard had a Cryptic, not good for Owen. I think that puts Gerard reasonably far ahead. But Owen was just of the opinion that there wasn't that much downside in going for it.
Snapcaster for Serum Visions it's off camera, but pretty certain that's what's happening.
And again, that's not good news for Owen. Seeing Gerard just freely willing to just snap Serum Visions here indicates that even if Owen recast Tasker next turn, Gerard probably has some kind of answer to it. Otherwise, Snapcaster Cryptic would have been the play.
Chat says that Owen literally terminated Gerard. Because of the token.
That is true.
Shouldn't the match be over now? Or I guess terminate doesn't actually go to players, but if you put yourself on the battlefield.
Yeah, that's a risk you're willing to take.
No kidding. All right, now Gerard's going to peck in there for 1 commander damage. Owen's at 15, though, so he's looking fine. That is, by the way, a 1/1 flying Thopter token that was made from P and Kieran Nalar. We haven't seen that card on the battlefield in a while, so in case you're just joining us, that's what that token is.
Looks like Owen ready to fire off a Tassiger here.
Tassiger was bounced back to hand by Cryptic last turn, but He is about to make his triumphant return. By the way, this is the game where Owen has resolved 2 Ancestral Visions already.
Looks like we've got a lightning bolt incoming here.
Bzz. Tasigur down. That was one important win condition for Owen Turtenwald there. You know, he fought to try to get in for those 4 damage last turn with Tasigur. That would have put Gerard at 6, a.k.a. 2 lightning bolts and or Snapcaster Mages away from death. Now he's at 10, which is double. You know, now he's got to go 3, 6, 9, 12 with bolts. That's a lot more to go.
Owen just needs like a red threat of some kind.
A red threat.
Something he can cast with red mana. It doesn't look like he has much in the way of that, though.
I think lightning bolt's the one.
Owen does have engineered explosives. He could kill Blood Moon with that. I just kind of doubt that it's in his deck.
Okay.
It just doesn't seem
Sure.
like the kind of card Owen would
bring it out of the board.
out of the board. Though it's possible that Blood Moon is enough of a problem that Owen wants that. It just seems it's a fairly inefficient answer. It can kill Thopters from P and Kiran Alar, but also that's not the most advantageous exchange.
Owen has a counter squall in hand. He's just going to pass the turn back.
Owen did find a Snapcaster Mage, but again, he's gated on 1 blue card a turn, and so when Gerard counters back, Owen can't do anything about it.
No. Even though he has that counter squall. And meanwhile, this little clock with just the Snapcaster Mage and the Thopter has really started to become a problem for Turtenwald. And in fact, it's such a problem that a combination of Electrolyze and Lightning Bolt is enough to finish off Owen. And that game goes to Gerard Fabiano, who sticks a Blood Moon and is able to ride it to victory, to force triple game 3s across our match. This is for everything, trying to make the finals of this tournament. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more Magic action for you here from San Antonio. And welcome back to coverage here at Grand Prix San Antonio. This is a match we haven't seen yet. Ben Lundquist versus Reed Duke. And wow, looks like we have a decider in the middle there. 2-1 in favor of William Huey Jensen. The Hall of Famer takes down the match for his team and says, okay, boys, Reed, Owen, win a game for me. I don't care which one of you does it,
Yeah.
but one of you guys do it, and we'll be in, because we're in 2 game threes now.
And that's been the story of this weekend. Owen, actually not a great record coming into the top 4. At one point, he was 3-7 with his Grixis deck, but William Huey Jensen has really not dropped very many matches this whole weekend.
No, he has been running it up. And we've got the Death Shadow mirror here. 2 very capable players. You said that you played on Nationals, or was it the national team with Ben Lundquist?
I did.
Who else was on that?
Paul Cheon.
Not bad.
Well, we didn't do well, so
I like the team though.
it was our
A lot of
first
shining personalities.
Yes, it was our first foray into professional Magic. We were a little bit inexperienced.
So taking a look at the hand here, Thoughtseize from Reed Duke sees Ranger of Eos, Fatal Push, Death Shadow, Traverse the Ulvenwald, and an Overgrown Tomb. So this is going to tell us a lot about the way that Reed thinks that this game is going to go and what kind of things he may have in his hand. If we see him take the Ranger, which is what we did, then he assumes that this game will go on for a little while. They're trading some resources, and he doesn't want Ben to have the big haymaker that is the Ranger of Eos at the end of that exchange.
And I think that's smart. From watching Death Shadow matchups throughout the course of the weekend, both in the booth and from the floor, it's the battle of attrition. And oh man, is it just so decided by whoever draws like one more land? Because near the end of the game, Death Shadow is just always lethal.
Yes.
And whoever just has, and everyone starts on turn 4 has no cards in their hand because there's Inquisitions and Thoughtseizes flying back and forth. So taking Ranger of Eos and preventing Ben from getting multiple copies of Death Shadow is, I think, a good move for Reed. The game is almost assuredly going to last long enough for that to be relevant, even at a 4-mana spell.
Here's Mistress Bauble from Reed Duke.
And note that he chose to use it after Ben Lundquist sacked Marsh Flats because he wanted accurate information about what the top of Ben's library would be.
Well, he knows and we know now that it was a Liliana of the Veil.
Well, that's good information. Playing around Liliana is critical. Lingering Soul is also a huge card in the mirror.
Here's Traverse. Of course, he's not going to have earned
Metalcraft.
himself yeah, Metalcraft quite yet. No Delirium, so he can only get a basic land at this point with his Traverse. But fair enough, he's going to go to Swamp.
Another reason that Thoughtseizing Ranger of Eos is a good move. Antoine Rouel's Invitational card.
So is it fair to say that Ben Lundquist is not playing Junt Death Shadow?
He is playing Jund Death Shadow. He
He's
has
splashing white.
Tarfire, Kolagon's Command, Temur Battle Rage, but he is splashing white for sideboard cards, which is kind of the typical build. Like we saw David Ochoa do the same in this top 4. Their match is playing out in the other bracket.
And you said Lingering Souls and Ranger of Eos were the ones that...
Yeah, and cards like that and like Gadok Teague and Wear Tear for other matchups, but Lingering Souls and Ranger of Eos for the attrition-based matchup that is the mirror.
Land Go from Reed Duke. Kind of interesting. Does nothing?
Well,
What does he have, Fatal Push or something?
Reed could easily have a removal spell. Also, he knows about Liliana of the Veil, so he's just not going to play a Tarmogoyf into Liliana. He's going to wait till he draws a Lingering Souls or a Thoughtseize or Inquisition to take Liliana, or forces Ben to play Liliana, but Reed has 3 Abrupt Decays in his main deck that he can use to kill Liliana.
Looks like Ben is trying to decide between just playing that Swamp that he got and playing Liliana, or maybe playing some threats out. He's got a Death Shadow. That wouldn't be good right now. But He also had a Tarmogoyf in there.
I think they were pointing out which card to discard, which is why they were pointing out that Death Shadow.
Ah.
And I suspect Reed will be aware of that.
Yeah, that is true. And there goes the Death Shadow right into the graveyard. And now Ben Lundquist has a sizable advantage here. He's the one with Liliana of the Veil. Does Reed have the answer now?
If Reed does have an answer, then I like Reed's position because he will just have more cards to work with. If he doesn't, Liliana prevents him from playing out creatures. Like Reed has a Grim Flare in hand that he would have loved to have played, but he just can't play that into Liliana of the Veil just coming down on turn 3. The funny thing is, Reed getting an untapped dual land does not necessarily indicate one way or the other, because whether he has Abrupt Decay, because he might just want to pay the life.
Yeah,
what a weird card.
What a weird card, Death Shadow.
Yeah,
Yep.
Death Shadow is, of course, what we're referring to. But well, Reed is going to need Lingering Souls here to put himself ahead. Because if he has Lingering Souls, then the Liliana -2 ability of making him sacrifice a creature, basically blank.
Yeah, it also pressures Liliana's loyalty count nicely as well, so that would be beautiful here for Reed Duke.
I feel like he's got it. He is very quickly fetching. This is not...
That was quick.
Reed is a somewhat deliberate player. I wouldn't say that he's too slow, but definitely not like a fast player. And the fact that he instantly cracks Windswept Teeth to get a third untapped land leads me to believe that he's got Lingering Souls. He could, I suppose, have Liliana of the Veil of his own. But
Ding. Good read, Luis. And here come the Spirits. So this is a really nice reaction here to the Liliana of the Veil for Reed Duke. And now it's back on Ben, though. And he's got still a very reasonable situation here. He's got Liliana of the Veil on the board. He just drew an Inquisition of Kozilek. And he can kind of map his way through what's going to happen here. You know, if he had a nice big threat here, it wouldn't be bad either, would it? Tarmogoyf.
he does have a Tarmogoyf. He can only play 2 of his 3 spells, which makes plussing Liliana awkward. He really does. He could plus and discard Fatal Push, I suppose. Oh, wow. Reed's hand is not actually stacked.
It's Grim Flare and 2 lands now.
Yeah, post-Inquisition. And that means Reed has access to 5 lands total, which is about 2 more than you end up wanting. So Reed is really hoping that he can draw a spell or 2 here because he's got plenty of lands to work with. So now Ben, he's got a couple options. He can go Tarmogoyf plus Liliana. Liliana goes to 5, but Reed is going to be discarding an irrelevant land, so that's not as enticing. He can minus Liliana, and, well, that is what he did. That keeps Liliana alive because the Spirit can attack Liliana down to 1, and then lets him get Tarmogoyf into play, which he knows Reed currently does not have an answer to. I think from the way things currently stand, Ben is slightly ahead. Not by much, but he has a Tarmogoyf, and Reed currently can't answer it. On the other hand, Reed is going to have a group. No, actually, no, never mind. Reed is just ahead because, well, it's close, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it does seem like it's close.
Because Reed is going to get his Grimflare answered by Fatal Push, so it's going to be Tarmogoyf against 3 Spirits with Liliana as like kind of a non-factor from here on out. So I have that advantage, Ben. He also gets the first draw step, but granted, I don't know what Ben drew this or Reed drew this turn. If Reed drew a Fatal Push or an Abrupt Decay, then Reed is back ahead all of a sudden. Oh, is Reed going to choose not to play
The Flare?
This would be a heads-up play. Reed does know about Fatal Push, so by playing Grimflare, or not playing Grimflare, he forces Ben to not plus Liliana.
To keep it in his hand.
Otherwise,
Wow.
Ben would have to discard.
That is cool. Yes, he just passed the turn back. That's really cool. So now if Ben draws a brick here, he could still consider it, but what did he find? Lingering Souls?
Yeah, that is not a brick. Lingering Souls is,
oh, man.
I think, Ben's best draw. So
this has been a sweet game.
now I have Ben firmly, I'm moving the advantage bar firmly in Ben's direction.
Well, I mean, if you look, Ben will have Lingering Souls, Tarmogoyf.
Oh. Well,
Ben, you know what? Reed did draw the Fatal Push that you were talking about. What in the world?
So the advantage bar is still on Ben's side. He's going to have 4 tokens to Reed's 3.
And still has Liliana right now.
And Liliana is going to absorb some damage here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tarmogoyf's coming.
Lingering Souls.
So,
Go.
And so
So Reed can trade off. Well, he can attack everything at Liliana if he'd like.
And Ben choosing not to plus Liliana.
Yeah, he didn't.
He
He
knows
passed.
that he will discard Fatal Push, and Reed will discard a land.
That does not seem favorable. Though it does make a difference in the sense that he could still have Liliana on the battlefield if he chose that.
She's just not going to do much. She's not going to. She might work her way up to 2 again, but still going to end up not doing all that much in the face of Lingering Souls.
So Reed is going to attack all 3 of his spirits at Liliana, I'm assuming here. And Ben has a question of, do I want to trade or not? He's not taking any damage, but could it be in his benefit to clean up the board a bit?
Basically, it's whether he just he can just blocks or no blocks, the same thing happens. Liliana dies, but
Yeah.
He could trade off spirits if he thinks that it's advantageous to do so. Reasons it would be, well, it makes another Liliana from Ben a little bit better. He could play around something like Zealous Persecution, but he knows Reed doesn't have that because they know sideboards. So it's kind of a wash. Like if Ben wants to attack back, it makes sense to take it, attack back, and then flash back Lingering Souls.
Well, let's see what Reed has. We know he's got that Grimflayer, that remaining Grimflayer in hand.
Well, Ben's got to be unhappy about this turn of events. Reed is cracking to get an untapped Temple Garden.
Uh-oh.
And he already could cast Grimflayer. Whatever else Reed drew, he's going to cast this turn, and
So he
it's going to be another spell.
Could have a Tarmogoyf here. Could be another Grimflayer. Uh-oh. Let's see what old Reed is bringing to the table this turn.
Reed the Bones Duke, as he's commonly known.
That is not true. Okay, there's a Grimflayer. We knew that. What else do you have, though, Reed? Maybe a Goyf?
Does he have a Death Shadow?
Oh, it looks like it.
That's got to be.
Yeah. Unless he splashed for a Llanowar Elf that we didn't know about.
Avacyn's Pilgrim. Bam.
There it is, Death Shadow. It's only a 1/1 right now.
Only a 1/1, but
Like you said, it's always lethal in the late game. It just won't stay that way for long.
that means that Ben doesn't have as much incentive to attack because it'll grow the Death Shadow. And even though Ben has 4 spirits, Reed has a significant advantage. The bar is almost, it's 80% of the way towards Reed here because he has a Grim Flare and a Death Shadow, even though we know Ben does have a Fatal Push. So it's in Reed's favor, but it's a kind of weird standoff where if Ben doesn't attack, then the Death Shadow can't really attack either, unless Reed has more ways to cost himself lives.
Right. Wow, pass it back to you, Reed Duke, who is now firmly in the lead. Remember, this is for the finals. If Reed can win this game, since Huey already won his match, that would be the round.
Do you think Owen would be happy or unhappy that he doesn't get to play a third game?
Oh, he'd be thrilled. All right. There's part of the puzzle right there because now the Death Shadow can attack and offer to trade for 3 spirits if Ben wants to go for it, and I think Reed would be okay with that. Trading for 1 didn't seem so hot.
Trading for 3 is good. Reed would be happy with that, even though it's funny that trading a potential 10/10 or whatever for spirit tokens.
Yeah, now look what's going to happen here, Luis. This is insane. Ben has another Liliana in his hand, so he just traded off as much of his board as he could, and if Reed doesn't have a follow-up threat, he's going to lose his Death Shadow.
Reed doesn't. Wow, Reed played into Liliana of the Veil here.
He did?
I think that
There she is.
Given the composition of these decks, that is a play that ended up not working out well for Reed. It's kind of a risky
Wow.
play, trading off when your opponent has access to a lot of Edict effects.
Huge backfire for Reed Duke, and now Spirit Token plus Liliana are threatening Reed, who seems to be out of gas. Does he have anything? No, he passes the turn back again. Ben Lundquist has surged ahead once again in the advantage bar race here.
And,
Wow.
And Ben is in kind of awkward spot where he has Liliana and doesn't really want to plus because his hand is a Fatal Push.
I think he maybe just got a traverse there,
Yeah,
too.
but he's going to be able to put a big threat on the board here, and that is huge. Looks like Owen better start, riffle shuffling up for game 3 here.
No kidding. This one slipped away from Reed Duke very quickly, and he is going to need some pretty special top decks to get out of this. What are the type of cards he's looking for? Maybe another Lingering Souls?
Lingering Souls might be his best draw right now.
Okay.
Ranger of Eos would be amazing
Okay.
to go get 2 copies of Death Shadow.
There's Traverse Ulvenwald for Lundquist. He's going to go get a Death Shadow or Tarmogoyf for something like that.
Death Shadow's a 5/5 with upside here, so I imagine that's going to be better than Tarmogoyf, even though Tarmogoyf could grow.
Yeah, he only has the one Ranger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, he would have got that, but remember that got discarded early in the game. Remember when Reed Thoughtseize that way back on turn 1?
Yeah, well. It turns out Ben never actually hit 4 lands, but
Yeah.
if he had a Ranger in hand instead of something else, then the game might have played out differently. He could have traversed differently, for example. And now I think we're going to see Ben not plus the Liliana. I think Fatal Push is just better than an extra loyalty on
Just
Liliana.
too good, right? Okay. Abrupt Decay from Duke says, you don't have that much pressure on me still. I need to find something to fight back, though.
Liliana the Veil from Reed would actually be quite strong here.
Yes, it would. Land. He's casting something. It's 3 mana.
It's Liliana.
It is Liliana of the Veil.
And now he's going to want to plus Liliana to knock whatever is in Ben's hand, which is obviously a removal spell. Otherwise, Ben would have probably played it and plus Liliana.
Right.
Reed is now ahead.
Reed is now back ahead again. My God, this game has been so swingy.
Oh, Ben drew an interesting draw. Nile Spellbomb, I actually don't think he wants to crack it now and draw a card, because otherwise he'll have to be discarded by Reed's Liliana.
Right.
He wants to do it end of turn, draw, untap, draw, and then hopefully be able to play both of his cards. Question is, do you attack Liliana? And it looks like he is.
Does this force Reed to minus Liliana, or does he get to just keep plussing here?
I like minusing, otherwise you're losing a loyalty a turn for no reason, and the Spirit already kind of blanks your -2.
Right.
All right,
Oh, baby.
Reed wants to see a white card. If he draws Lingering Souls or Ranger of Eos, then
You'll give him that advantage bar?
yeah, he has a huge edge here.
Man, what a swingy game this has been. It looked like he was going to win, then it slipped away.
This is every Death Shadow mirror I've ever seen.
This
It really is.
Awesome.
I mean, sometimes someone just gets run over, but like these games are just like haymakers back and forth. All right, here it is.
What did you find, Reed? He wouldn't let us see it. We do look at the same screen you do, by the way, at home. So if you didn't see it, we didn't see it. Minus?
If he's reaching for the Liliana, he's minusing because
That's right. He's not going to make himself.
I mean, if he drew an Inquisition or a Thoughtseize, he could plus Liliana.
Sure. He's going to minus. Go.
Pass the turn.
It was not what he wanted to see.
So he could have drawn a land or a removal spell, and either way he might want to hold it because to give Ben incentive to plus Liliana. Ben didn't use Nile Spellbomb.
He did not use it. He just didn't use it at all.
Did he draw Abrupt Decay? He did.
He did, and he gets to kill Liliana here. Wow, things are going great for Reed.
Well, except Ben has a draw step saved up in that
Yes,
Nile Spell, and that means any Traverse the Ulvenwalds from Reed no longer have an effect.
Oh my God, this is fantastic stuff. Ben's using it. He's going to pay the black and draw a card. Can he find a threat?
He found Lingering Souls.
Did he really?
He can't cast Lingering Souls this turn, which means that Reed's going to get to +1 and
take
make him
half of
discard
it away?
which is a huge swing.
Land for Reed. Get rid of your Lingering Souls. That was the best draw for Ben Lundquist, but he was out of mana. So now he only gets half of it.
And then Liliana can, if Reed bricks, Liliana can minus. Ben drew another land.
Okay. Back to Reed Duke. Still looking for a threat. Liliana's going to minus, and it's Spirit versus nothing, and Reed's past the turn back. Advantage Ben Lundquist again.
Spirit versus nothing, and the first draw step. Abrupt Decay.
Okay, that's not bad,
No,
because the first threat that Reed finds, assuming it's not Lingering Souls or Ranger.
Wait, are we going to see it? We're going to see it. You know what is a 3/4 and has Swamp Walk?
No way. He's hard casting Street Wraith. And it costs 5, so he can't kill it with Abrupt Decay.
It gets around, or Fatal Push. Oh, wait. Does Ben have another mana producing land? He does. He has to. Yes, he can. So here's the problem that Ben is facing. If he wants to cast his own Street Wraith, which is very relevant here, he has to spend 3 life in Bloodstained Mire because he has to get an untapped
go to a 2-turn claw.
and go to 5. But the thing is, if he doesn't want to cast Street Wraith and he cycles it, that's also a 2-turn clock.
Right. So he'd have to just keep it in his hand and do nothing, and clearly that's not going to work for him because Reed has an unblockable 3/4.
Ben can't kill Street Wraith. Fatal Push doesn't kill it. Abrupt Decay doesn't kill it. Ben's used both of his copies of Liliana of the Veil.
Oh my God.
I actually think Ben just cannot kill Street Wraith.
So what are his options here?
If
he has to
if he draws,
cycle it, draw something huge?
yes, and try to
Like he needs a Death
like
Shadow?
a Death Shadow.
He drew a Tarmogoyf. Oh my God. He actually drew the Tarmogoyf.
All right, so it's on Reed. If Reed can draw a chump blocker for Tarmogoyf that does not get Abrupt Decayed, of which there are not very many cards.
Lingering Souls, baby.
So, Lingering Souls, Ranger of Eos, another Street Wraith.
Yes.
Traverse the Overworld does not quite do it. A removal spell for Tarmogoyf. Reed has a lot of outs.
Wow. Let's see if Reed can do it. They double-checked how big the Tarmogoyf was there. It's got to be lethal. What does Reed find? This is a huge draw step for him. He found a Mishra's Bauble, which is terrible for him.
He needs to draw an instant speed removal spell.
So he needs another Abrupt Decay or some such.
So if that's a Traverse the Overworld, then he can keep it on top. He can chump with Street Wraith.
Yes.
Go to 4. Next turn, Traverse for Ranger of Eos because he'll have creature,
Oh my
Planeswalker,
God.
Artifact, land, and then Traverse Ranger Death Shadow. But his Marsh Flats, he can. Let's see. I don't think Reed has another mana producing land. No, Reed does not.
But he will still have 2 blockers up either way, right?
He will still have 2 blockers, except Abrupt Decay will kill 1, but then Ranger chumps, and then you play the second Death Shadow.
Yes, that's how this works. And that has to be much bigger than the Tarmogoyf, right? It'll be, what, an 8/8?
It'll be 9/9 if the Spirit attacks, and 10/10 if the Marsh Flats get sacrificed just to lose a life.
Definitely
and
bigger. And he has passed the turn. If he attacked there, that was game.
Yeah, that means that he would have a solution, but Death Shadow.
Was that a Death Shadow from Lundqvist? Unbelievable. So now Reed is chump blocking with a Street Wraith, and a Death Shadow is added to the board. That has to be good enough for Ben Lundqvist.
It is, unless Reed draws Lingering Souls.
Let's see what Reed drew. He's thinking, remember, his teammates are helping him here. If Reed wins this match, that puts his team into the finals. If
So
he loses, then it's going to be Fabiano versus Turtenwald to
if Reed
decide it.
didn't draw Lingering Souls, he gets to go Traverse, Ranger, Death Shadow. Death Shadow gets Abrupt Decayed. Ben attacks for lethal.
Yes.
If Reed did draw Lingering Souls, he gets to go Lingering Souls, make 4 souls, Traverse for Ranger. Next turn, chump, maybe trade off Spirit. Next turn, play 2 Death Shadows, and then Reed's ahead.
But his draw steps had to be just perfect. Traverse into Lingering Souls to make this work.
And all Reed needed was a removal spell last turn, and the Street Wraith would have actually done the trick.
Yes.
He was a turn shy.
Let's see what Reed has. He's cracking Marsh Flats.
Yeah, that's not a good sign because that is getting him to Delirium for Traverse, but it means if he's going down the Traverse route, we're going to see a game 3 out of him.
Yeah, because he doesn't know about the removal spell from Lundqvist. Lundqvist takes another look. Is this still Abrupt Decay? Absolutely it is, and it looks like this slugfest between Reed Duke and Ben Lundqvist is going to go to Ben. Reed doesn't have any other tricks up his sleeve here, right? There's just nothing else.
Yeah, the drawback of Mishra's Bauble, waiting a turn, was never more readily apparent than last turn.
Absolutely.
If Reed had just drawn Traverse, he would have just been able to win on the spot essentially by going Traverse, Ranger, Death Shadow, and then having 2 chump blockers back and then attacking the Street Wraith.
He's got 2 Death Shadows. He can play one of them.
If that Marsh Flats could have gotten a land, any land that produces, well, anything, just a mana producing land, then Reed would have been able to play 2 Death Shadows.
But he has no more left in his entire deck, huh?
Yeah, he's all 6 in play.
There's a Death Shadow. He was that close.
And Reed drew Fatal Push. Had Reed...
So, and again, the mana situation means that he cannot cast it. Wow, unbelievable. He's going to have to extend the hand, and Ben Lundqvist wins the match 2-1. And that means this is not over, kids. We're going to take a short break. Take a deep breath. Go grab a glass of water, because when you come back, we're going to have Owen Turtenwald versus Gerard Fabiano for the finals. And welcome back to coverage here at Grand Prix San Antonio. Hopefully you guys have had a chance to take a deep breath and get yourself all gathered, because we've got Gerard Fabiano versus Owen Turtenwald. The winner of this game will determine which team makes it into the finals. And a good start for both players here. Ancestral Vision on suspend turn 1. Both players off of basic island, I will also note. Specifically for Turtenwald.
Both off beta, basic island.
Yeah.
See, that looks like Gerard's might be alpha. I have to take a closer look to be sure.
It is. Owen's is beta, though.
And this is a good start for both players, like you said. They're going to battle over Ancestral Vision, and Owen has a Counter Squall in hand, so he's going to have a good way to start that battle.
Is he just holding his breath every time he casts a Thought Scour?
I think he is, because
it makes me so nervous.
if he mills a basic island or basic swamp like we saw in last game, then Blood Moon has just so much more of an impact. And Gerard has Blood Moon in hand, and that's just... It is more effective than I thought it would be coming into the match. I didn't realize until closely examining Owen's mana base, he just has the 3 basic lands, not counting, of course, the basic mountain, which doesn't help a whole lot when in the face of Blood Moon.
Yeah, it's weird. When you look at the spells in the Grixis control deck, they're actually incredibly mana intensive. It's like colored mana spell across the board on many of those early spells. I mean, he's casting Terminate, right? That's 2 colored mana spells. Colorless, be damned. You don't even need it at all. Same thing with Counter Squall.
Cryptic Command.
Cryptic Command has 3 blue symbols on it, right? And then, of course, all of his 1-drops just cost 1 color of mana across the board there, too. So, not a lot of colorless in this thing. All right, so but that's really key there. Both islands on the battlefield now for Turtenwald. Where's his swamp, though? You could have gotten one a second ago. Decided to get the island instead. Oh, we found it.
All right, well.
Good start there for Owen.
Yeah, in the face of Blood Moon, this is looking pretty good. Also, Gerard, because the players do know deck lists, Gerard knows that Owen just has 3 total Counter Squalls, 2 in the main, 1 on the board, that could stop a Blood Moon on turn 3 with only 3 mana up.
God, I mean,
Gerard might just go for it.
Well, here's what I'm wondering. So Gerard puts it on the stack. Does Owen counter it?
Absolutely.
He still has to.
It turns off Cryptic Command at the very least. It also means that Owen just has so many fewer turns where he can double spell, like where he can go like.
I mean, but now he's got 2 islands.
Yeah, even then, Snapcaster Mage gets so much worse with Blood Moon in play.
Yeah, the thing that I was thinking of is that he needs to protect that Ancestral Vision as well, right? Like he has to weigh out. Okay, do I want to keep this Counter Squall for a fight over this Ancestral Vision versus a Blood Moon? But yeah, Blood Moon had a devastating effect on the game last time, and Gerard's not even going to go for it here.
So I think one of his teammates pointed to the Blood Moon, and Gerard just shook him off and was probably displeased that his teammate even pointed at a card in his hand, because Owen will read into that and understand what that means.
Absolutely.
The disadvantage of communication in the team format is that it goes both ways.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I've watched Gerard play quite a bit in my day. Looks like he's going to go for an Electrolyze upstairs here. Gerard has his own style about the way that he plays Magic, and I think that if I were on Gerard's team, I would just let him do his thing. I wouldn't try to
If you've signed up to
all.
team with Gerard, I think you've signed up to let him play the games he wants to play. Because Gerard, I played against him many times. He's been playing for a long time.
Right.
He does play his own way, and that is the most common play style that gets disrupted by teammates chiming in. Because you either give away information, which I think they may have done already, or you disrupt a plan that you don't really know what the plan was supposed to be, so you're just like, well, why don't you do this? And then you kind of derail your teammate, in this case Gerard.
And Gerard's had a lot of success at Magic, playing with his own personal style as well. So I think that, like you said, you're going to be on his team. I think you just trust him and let him go.
So Gerard's looking at Cryptic Command, and this works out okay for Gerard. So if Owen counters the Cryptic Command with Counter Squall or Cryptic Command, he has both in hand, I believe, then Gerard has a window to resolve his own vision and a Blood Moon. Gerard's going to have double threat next turn. So Owen really just has to be aware that, there is dangerous times coming.
Oh, now this is interesting, though, because Owen has Dispel, which may let him leave up a bunch of mana so that he can actually fight a fight next turn over some of those key spells.
Owen did board in Engineered Explosives.
He did.
He just concluded that Blood Moon was that important.
He really did.
Oh, and that's really good for Owen, because now he can have a lot more leeway. He can fight over vision. He can fight over whatever it is he wants to fight over. If Gerard resolves Blood Moon, not a big deal.
He can just untap and take care of it.
This is going to go pretty well for Owen, I think, because Counter Squall with Dispel backup is pretty huge.
Right. So this is Counter Squall targeting Ancestral Vision, and Gerard's not going to fight that fight. But he's going to go for a Jace Architect of Thought, and there's not a one-mana counterspell for that here. So Gerard ends up in a nice position here with a Jace on the battlefield. Let's see if he's going to plus it this time.
So he didn't plus it last time. We saw
Kind
in
of
game
paid the
2.
price, huh?
Well, he saw that Owen had 2 bolts, so if he pluses it, he trades for 2 bolts. If he minuses it, he trades for a bolt but draws a card off Jace.
Fair, fair.
Here, if he wants to play around 1 lightning bolt, he could just plus it, but then are you going to plus it next turn, or are you going to start minusing it? At some point, you do have to decide whether you want to play around bolt, and looks like Gerard's in for the long haul, since I would expect plussing it multiple times here.
I can appreciate that. This game does look like it's going to go a long way. This is very much a control fight.
Owen a little short on threats here. This is where he would want
Tassiger or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
However, if Gerard goes plus Jace again to play around Bolt, right, waiting an additional turn to use the minus, because if he minuses here, it's kind of like you didn't play around Bolt anyway because you still get Jace bolted. If he pluses again, Owen can then go end of turn Cryptic Command. Gerard can Cryptic back. Owen has that Dispel, and Gerard has to have another cheap counterspell in order for this fight not to work out in his favor, or in Owen's favor. And again, Owen wants to hold that Engineered Explosives. He could at some point play it out so he knows he has it resolved, but if Gerard thinks Blood Moon's a trump card, he's going to play very differently than if there's an explosive sitting out there.
Plus again.
This could be the turn where Gerard goes for double Blood Moon as well, since he has 2 in his hand.
All right, you described this action earlier, Luis. This is end step Cryptic Command.
Bounce draw.
Bounce draw. Remand it.
So remand it, leaving up an obvious Cryptic. So this is trouble for Owen because he could Dispel here, and then he would get his Dispel countered by Cryptic Command.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Gerard either didn't have it or chose not to use it, so that worked out well for Turtenwald.
Gerard does have a Cryptic Command, though, as far as I can tell.
So he wanted to protect against something resolving now.
But
wow, he gave up a lot for that.
One of the I think weaknesses of Owen's deck, he doesn't really have any haymakers. Tassiger is like the biggest card he can land, and wow, Gerard is really playing conservatively here.
Interestingly, also Owen played a Blood Crypt untapped there. He wants to have as much mana available as possible. And here we go. Gerard Fabiano says, "I'm going to play a Blood Moon. What do you say?"
I like fighting over this from Owen's perspective. Even though Owen has Cryptic Command, if you let Blood Moon resolve, I could see you have to spend a lot of mana to engineer explosives.
Okay, Cryptic, counter draw. And that works out for Owen as well, who draws a Snapcaster Mage. Gerard's thinking super long game here.
I think Gerard's going to play another Blood Moon and hope that it resolves and hope that it's good enough to really punish Owen, but
it's not going to be, is it?
Well, Owen has engineered explosives in hand, so I think that he's gonna be able to use that to get out from under it.
Okay, so Gerard set up this entire sequence so that he could resolve a Blood Moon, and it looks like that is going to work for him. Now the question is it good enough?
See Owen making Gerard discard a card and then getting Snapcaster Mage back with
You're talking about
Kolaghan's
command? Okay, sure.
Just to use his mana, just to get a little 2-for-1 off Gerard.
And you know these 2-for-1s get out of hand because that Snapcaster Mage is a 2-for-1 itself. I didn't see what Gerard discarded, did he?
He did discard something. I didn't see what it was.
Okay, it was quick. It was probably
looks
a
like
land.
a Scalding Tarn.
Okay.
So I guess Gerard did not have Cryptic. It looked like he had Cryptic Command in his hand, but it looked like he played as if he had Cryptic, but he actually did not have access to Cryptic, because I think his last card is Jace now.
All right. So Blood Moon's there. Kind of messing with Owen's mana. He will want to take some time to clear that out if he can. Here's Snapcaster Mage for Kolaghan's Command, and he is just going to get Gerard on empty here, Luis.
Yeah, he's going to
No
force a
cards
discard
in hand.
of that Jace.
Wow. This is working out beautifully for Turtenwald. He's got Gerard Fabiano just stone cold top decking here, and he even has an answer to the Blood Moon.
Yeah,
He has a threat.
If Owen couldn't answer Blood Moon, things would still be looking quite good for him. Given that he can answer Blood Moon, he seems very far ahead. Yeah, that Ancestral Vision resolving, the Cryptic resolving, these are all just card advantage mechanisms that Owen had access to.
And now he's seeing the dividends from those. And here comes Engineered Explosives with 3 Sunburst counters on it, a land, and he passes a turn back. This one looks like it's slipping away from Fabiano, and quickly. His hand is Lightning Bolt? Something.
Owen still has Dispel in his hand too, right? He's definitely got a Snapcaster.
Yep.
Oh, it looks like he has Snapcaster and Thought Scour. So he could free up his lands by sacking the explosives.
Which he's going to do. That had 3 on it. The only thing that's going away is the Blood Moon. And if Owen gets to untap from this point,
then he has Snapcaster Cryptic, and
that is just so difficult to beat for Fabiano, especially given that Owen not only has a source of pressure with Snapcaster Mage. Looks like Vendilion Click on end step here from Fabiano. He wants to make sure that it resolves. Owen says, you got it. You're going to target me or you.
I think Fabiano's team is deciding that now.
Okay, well, I think he targeted Owen, and Owen said, all right, well, before that resolves, I'm going to bolt you. And I guess Fabiano is just kind of priced into taking Snapcaster Mage here and seeing what happens.
All right. That was a good exchange for Gerard, though.
It was. But again, the problem is that he's got this passive Ancestral Vision that's just going to sit there and tick away. Once that resolves, really the hope goes away for Fabiano under most circumstances. And on top of it, Owen's chipping away with a Snapcaster Mage. He actually has a clock.
He also has a Creeping Tar Pit. So
The old creeper.
That's going to add to the pressure. And Gerard has 2 Blood Moons, and they've both been used this game. So Owen's lands are safe from disruption this time. Blood Moon is banned from showing up again in this game.
Can't flash that back. Here's Kolaghan's Command from Turtenwald. Gerard's going to browse the graveyard of Owen, but with all the pressure on Owen to win this one game to put his team in the finals, it looks like he may be coming through for the Peach Garden Oath. There's that last card, Lightning Bolt, to take out the threat of Snapcaster Mage. But there was another Snapcaster Mage in the yard that was getting targeted by Kolaghan's Command, and you can see why people like that card so much.
Yeah, that combination, I mean, Owen can then do that again. He can Snapcaster Kolaghan, get back to the previous Snapcaster.
That's right, and this one's going to be over quicker than it looks, potentially. Owen's going to fall down to 11. Gerard used up that Lightning Bolt. He has no other cards in hand except for the one he drew, and he just snapped a turn back. So Ancestral Vision set to come off the stack for Turtenwald. Or off of Suspend, I should say, pretty soon here. Just one turn away. Serum Vision.
You got there. I was definitely going to say something.
You're going to get me, weren't you? That was Tasker going back on top of the library with a land going on the bottom. Things are really looking good for Owen right now. And Gerard needs something to get himself back in this game. Nothing. Passes the turn back. Here it is. Ancestral Vision on the stack. Target myself, thank you. Does it resolve? If it does, that surely has to be the nails in the coffin for Gerard Fabiano.
Yeah, I think that Gerard already was going to have a really hard time beating the Snapcaster Mage in Owen's hand, but now that Owen has like another Tassiger, or rather a Tassiger, another Snapcaster Mage, there's access to so many resources, and Gerard is on 7 lands and 2 cards in hand versus Owen's full grip of cards.
All right, there's Tassiger for Owen. Tassiger teaming up with Creeping Tar Pit makes just pretty quick clock, just 2 or 3 turns depending on how Owen wants to play it. And this one could be in the books with the Peach Garden Oath through to the finals. Does Gerard still keep in the whole Madcap thing?
My suspicion is no.
That's what I would assume as well, but this is the type of cards I'm thinking about now, you know.
This is the kind of thing that you have to use to win a game like this.
Yeah, if he keeps that package in his deck, can run it out and then not having to answer it, it just seems so unlikely.
This is it. This is Owen going for the killing blow here.
Yep. Suppose he's going to go for a Kolaghan's Command here?
Yeah, pretty good chance. Like Kolaghan's Command, deal you 2, get back a Snapcaster.
And then his 3 creatures, the Creeping Tar Pit and the 2 on the board. Let's see what he does. He says, sure.
Could also just get Lightning Bolt and have the Kolaghan's Command that you already have just attack for enough, assuming the George doesn't have anything.
Sure. Bolt you. Vendilion Click for Gerard Fabiano. That's a blocker. Owen's looking at his hand, and he says, well, you're going to take my Snapcaster, right? Oh, he's already got a Kolaghan's Command in his hand, too.
Yeah, Gerard, an unenviable position here. Kolaghan's Command just, again, setting up a loop. Owen has another Snapcaster in his graveyard. Also, that Bolt, when it resolves, drops Gerard to 7, which means Gerard has to chump Tassiger with Vendilion Click, take 2 off Snapcaster, 3 off Tar Pit, fall to 2, and just die to the other Kolaghan's Command.
Kolaghan's Command is what he took away because it represents another Snapcaster anyway. And Gerard's got to be thinking, is there any way out of this mess? And it's not looking like there is. Owen untaps, draws his card for the turn.
Counter Squall just to make sure.
The Insurance Counter Squall, not bad. Here's Creeping Tar Pit. He's attacking for lethal here. This is going to be a must-block scenario for Gerard Fabiano. What is he playing? Snapcaster Mage of his own.
It's his last card in hand. Owen can Snapcaster Cryptic, counter Snapcaster, tap Vendilion Click.
And win.
Or bounce Vendilion Click. Either way.
And that does it. Owen Turtenwald defeats Gerard Fabiano to put the Peach Garden Oath into the finals. 2-1 Huey Jensen, 2-1 Ben Lundquist, and 2-1 for Owen Turtenwald. Whew. That's close stuff.
Yeah.
All 3 game 3s happened in our semifinal on camera here, but ultimately it came down to Owen Turtenwald. It was all on his shoulders. Have you been in that spot before in one of these team tournaments where your match happened to be last? You play so quickly, I wonder if you even have.
Odds are yes. I'm not 100% sure, but
not in the semifinals.
Not in the semifinals. No, I think most of the time my match has concluded.
I mean, I remember one of the more famous ones. Remember when the Paul mirror?
Yes, when Paul Rietzel and Paul Cheon battled at Grand Prix San Jose. This was the tournament where if my team of Eric Froelich, Paul Cheon, and myself got exactly first place, Paul Cheon would be qualified for the Pro Tour the next week.
Yes.
We did.
You did that.
And it came down to Paul against Paul for the Pro Tour.
And it was a heck of a match, too,
Oh, yeah.
especially that last game. I've been thinking about that one a lot lately. Okay, we've got a break here. We're getting set up for the finals. We're going to get our players seated and ready to go. Once they're ready, we're going to be back. But for now, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back in just a little bit. Don't go anywhere.